Michigan, a state known for its industrial legacy and the breathtaking calm of the Great Lakes. But beyond the postcards and past memories, another reality unfolds. One that doesn't make it into the tourist guides. It's quieter, often invisible, but deeply urgent. In 2025, Michigan is facing a growing challenge: the rising number of individuals and families without a stable place to call home. This isn't just a statistic. It's a daily experience marked by uncertainty, by long nights, and by a system that often struggles to keep up. In this episode, we go beyond the numbers. We'll walk alongside those navigating life without housing. We'll hear from the outreach teams, the overwhelmed service providers, and the community members who are trying to help. Together, we'll uncover what's driving this crisis, from housing shortages and job displacement to emotional health needs and policy gaps. You'll see the worn-out sidewalks that serve as beds, the crowded shelters stretched beyond capacity, and the quiet resilience of people facing a challenge most of us rarely have to imagine. In the landscape of national challenges, Michigan in 2025 stands as a revealing case study, where long-standing economic shifts, housing strain, and health-related pressures converge in a crisis that demands both attention and action. This is more than just a state-level concern. It's a reflection of broader patterns seen across the country. The effects of industrial transformation still echo throughout Michigan. The decline of its once powerful manufacturing base has left many communities grappling with job losses, wage stagnation, and reduced economic opportunity. Today, more than 13% of the state's residents live below the poverty line, a clear signal of just how fragile day-to-day stability can be for many households. Layered on top of this is a significant housing shortage. Michigan is currently short nearly 141,000 housing units, a deficit that drives up rental costs and limits access to stable shelter. For many working families, affording a modest two-bedroom apartment requires earning more than $23 an hour, a figure that exceeds the wages of countless essential workers. For extremely low-income households, the numbers are even more daunting. Fewer than 40 affordable homes are available for every 100 households who need them. At the same time, health and wellness remain deeply connected to this challenge. The lingering impact of the opioid epidemic continues to affect individuals and families across the state, adding another layer of difficulty for those already facing housing instability. These are not isolated problems. They're interlinked, affecting access to care, financial recovery, and long-term stability. As of early 2025, over 8,100 people in Michigan are living without a home, a rise from the previous year and a signal that current systems are under strain. Ambitious plans have been introduced, including a target to build over 115,000 housing units by the end of 2026, and multi-sector partnerships are beginning to form. But real progress depends on more than numbers. It requires understanding the lives behind the statistics and the barriers that still stand in the way. By turning our focus to Michigan this year, we seek to explore not just the scale of the crisis, but the emerging efforts, lessons, and opportunities that could reshape how we respond, here and beyond. To truly grasp the complexity of Michigan's housing instability in 2025, we need to go beyond the numbers and into the very different realities that play out across the state. This isn't a single, uniform experience. It shifts in tone and urgency depending on location, from the heart of the city to the quiet stretches of rural roads. In urban areas like Detroit, the past and present seem to collide. The towering remnants of Michigan's industrial legacy cast long shadows over neighborhoods where many residents now face housing insecurity. Along sidewalks and near old factories, makeshift shelters speak to the economic shifts that have reshaped entire communities. The need is visible and concentrated, placing immense pressure on local resources that are already stretched thin. Meanwhile, in rural counties, the challenge often looks very different, but feels just as urgent. In 10 counties across Michigan, recent reports show a concerning rise in residents without stable shelter. Here, it's not the crowding, but the isolation that defines the experience. With fewer services nearby, limited public transit, and long stretches between support centers, individuals in remote areas face unique barriers to stability. Imagine someone carrying their belongings along miles of open road, not just alone, but far from immediate help. Across both landscapes, rural and urban, health and wellness play a major role. The emotional toll of uncertainty, combined with broader community health concerns, continues to affect the path to recovery and long-term stability. Public health data shows a rise in related health outcomes in recent years, prompting calls for earlier outreach, stronger wraparound services, and more comprehensive care systems. Understanding Michigan's 2025 housing challenges means recognizing this full picture. It's the concentrated need of our cities, the quiet struggle in the countryside, and the personal battles happening behind each statistic. This isn't about dramatic labels or single causes. It's about seeing the scope clearly and responding with the empathy and coordination that this moment demands. Michigan's growing housing instability in 2025 didn't appear overnight. It's the result of long-standing economic shifts and deeply rooted policy challenges that have gradually shaped the lives of thousands of residents across the state. One of the most defining elements of this story is the transformation of Michigan's industrial base, especially the decline of the once dominant automotive sector. As factories closed and stable, middle-income jobs disappeared. Entire communities were left navigating economic uncertainty. This shift weakened local economies and placed families one step closer to housing insecurity. Today, nearly 13% of Michiganders live below the poverty line, a reflection of how quickly that safety margin has eroded for many households. At the same time, the gap between wages and living costs continues to grow. A modest two-bedroom apartment in Michigan now requires an income of more than $23 per hour, a wage that many essential workers in service and retail jobs simply don't earn. This isn't a failure of effort. It's a structural mismatch between what work pays and what it costs to live, a reality felt by countless individuals trying to make ends meet. Support systems that once served as a buffer during hard times have also weakened. Over the years, reductions in funding and limited access to essential assistance, from temporary housing aid to health-related support, have left many families with fewer options when facing hardship. When those systems don't respond quickly or adequately, people often find themselves with nowhere else to turn. Adding even more pressure is Michigan's significant shortage of affordable housing. With a deficit nearing 141,000 units, the lack of available and reasonably priced homes has become a central challenge. Contributing factors include limited investment in new developments, restrictive zoning policies, and rising market demand. This growing imbalance places many families, especially those with lower incomes, in a cycle that's hard to break. Understanding Michigan's current housing challenges means looking at the bigger picture, not just individual stories, but also the systems and policies that have shaped this environment. Addressing these concerns calls for more than quick fixes. It requires thoughtful investment, inclusive planning, and the will to build a future where safe and stable housing is within reach for everyone. The scale of housing instability in Michigan can seem overwhelming. Thousands of individuals without a secure place to live. But these aren't just numbers in a report. Each one represents a person with a name, a history, and a future still being written. To understand the reality, we need to move beyond statistics and center the human stories within them. Nearly half, 48%, of people without stable housing in Michigan are families with children. This means classrooms include students unsure of where they'll sleep at night. Parents work tirelessly to shield their kids from the weight of uncertainty, creating routine and comfort with limited resources. These are not isolated cases. They reflect a larger pattern that reshapes childhoods and challenges resilience. The picture becomes even more urgent when we examine disparities. Black residents make up just 14% of Michigan's population, but account for over half, 52%, of those experiencing homelessness. This is not a coincidence. It reflects a long history of unequal access to housing, education, and economic opportunity. These gaps, rooted in decades of policy and systemic barriers, continue to show up in today's housing outcomes. Among the most impacted are groups whose stories are too often left out of the public conversation. Veterans who once served the nation now struggle to find a safe, consistent place to call home. Young adults exiting foster care navigate adulthood with limited support. Seniors on fixed incomes are increasingly priced out of communities they've lived in for decades. While recent efforts have made some progress, including declines in first-time and veteran homelessness, these steps forward only highlight how much more remains to be done. Behind every number is a face, a neighbor, a friend, someone who belongs. This isn't just a policy issue. It's a question of how we value dignity, equity, and shared responsibility, and whether we're willing to make sure no one is left without a place to land. The driving force behind Michigan's housing crisis in 2025 is clear: a market stretched to its limit. While economic discussions can feel distant, the lived reality is captured in one critical number. Rental vacancy rates remain below 5%. That means for every 20 units, only one becomes available. For individuals and families without secure housing, this creates immense pressure. Imagine a single parent working full-time, earning $15 an hour. Their monthly income hovers around $2,400 before taxes. In places like Grand Rapids, a modest apartment can cost $1,500 or more, leaving only a fraction of their income for food, transportation, childcare, and other essential needs. There's simply no room for unexpected costs, let alone long-term planning. This struggle isn't isolated. Across Michigan, over half of all renters, 51%, are considered housing burdened, meaning they spend more than 30% of their income on rent. Since 2021, rental costs have risen by 36%, making the challenge even more acute for those already on tight budgets. The message from housing advocates is urgent. Michigan needs approximately 200,000 additional affordable housing units by 2030. But construction has not kept pace with this growing demand. Without a meaningful and immediate shift in policy and investment, thousands of households may continue facing housing insecurity, whether that means moving frequently, relying on temporary accommodations, or struggling to stay housed altogether. This isn't just about numbers. It's about whether our communities can ensure that everyone has a place to live, safely, affordably, and with dignity. Look closely. Among the thousands facing housing instability in Michigan, there's a group often overlooked: children. These are not just numbers. They are young students trying to hold on to something every child deserves: a sense of safety and stability. Recent data reveals a difficult truth. Students without a permanent home face disruptions to their education at twice the average state rate. Imagine arriving at a new school mid-year, not because of a move for a better job or opportunity, but because your family lost your last place to stay. You're behind on schoolwork, you don't know anyone, and in your backpack, you carry more than just books. You carry the silent weight of uncertainty. Only 58% of these students graduate on time, not because they lack ability, but because their circumstances make consistency nearly impossible. Without a quiet place to study, a regular bedtime, or a dependable routine, learning becomes a daily challenge. Teachers across Michigan see this every day. Children struggling to stay focused, too tired from a restless night, or arriving without having had a proper meal. They may not always say it out loud, but the impact is there. A child should be thinking about their favorite subject in class, not where they'll be sleeping that night. And the effects go far beyond the classroom. Compared to their peers, children without stable housing are more likely to face health challenges and fall behind in developmental milestones. They may experience difficulties in social settings or find it harder to keep up academically, not due to a lack of potential, but because the foundation they need to thrive isn't always there. The simple parts of childhood, a quiet space for homework, the comfort of a bedtime routine, the joy of inviting a friend over, become rare privileges instead of everyday moments. This isn't just about education. It's about giving every child a fair start. Michigan's housing crisis isn't only shaping the lives of adults. It's reshaping what childhood looks like for thousands of students across the state. If we want to change the future, we must start with those whose futures are still being written. To truly understand the wide-reaching challenge of housing insecurity in Michigan, we must look beyond the surface, across landscapes as varied as the crisis itself. This journey doesn't follow the path of scenic overlooks or tourist brochures. Instead, it traces the quieter corners of the state, where individuals and communities are working every day to meet basic needs with dignity and compassion. We begin in Detroit, where the size and visibility of the issue are most pronounced. In this historic city, we'll walk alongside outreach teams as they offer support and connection. We'll visit shelters doing their best with limited space and hear from individuals navigating extraordinary difficulties while holding on to hope. In these moments, the strength of the human spirit becomes deeply clear. Next, in Flint, we shift to a community still recovering from years of economic hardship. But what also stands out here is generosity. Local volunteers offering warm meals, outreach, and critical resources, often from kitchens, church basements, or mobile units. In the face of limited tools, their effort becomes a lifeline. Our journey then takes us north to Marquette, in the Upper Peninsula. The vast natural beauty here contrasts with a quieter challenge: how rural isolation and severe winters can make life even harder for people without stable housing. Local advocates are working creatively to provide assistance, from warming centers to transportation programs, all while navigating long distances and fewer resources. In Alpena and Ionia, smaller communities reveal a different side of the story. Here, it's often grassroots organizations, faith groups, and neighborhood networks stepping up, turning community halls into emergency shelters or distributing supplies to neighbors in need. These are examples of local care filling in the gaps. And in Muskegon, we explore efforts to find new solutions, including the creation of designated outdoor living areas where people can stay safely while working toward permanent housing. While not without debate, these approaches highlight the complexity of the issue and the need for both short-term safety and long-term plans. This journey is not about pointing fingers, it's about learning, about listening. Across cities, towns, and counties, Michigan residents are stepping up, often quietly, to support those facing housing instability. Because behind every location, there are people, working, caring, and hoping for better. And by seeing them clearly, we can begin to understand how broad this challenge really is, and how important it is to respond with empathy and action. The path forward in Michigan's response to homelessness is anything but one size fits all. Across the state, thoughtful and sometimes passionate, conversations are unfolding among policymakers, advocates, service providers, and individuals with lived experience. Each brings a different lens to the table, reflecting just how complex and interconnected this issue truly is. One major proposal gaining traction is the Housing First model, an approach that starts with a simple, powerful premise. Secure housing should come first, without preconditions. Supporters point to successful outcomes from similar programs in other states, where individuals who received stable homes were more likely to access healthcare, reduce emergency room visits, and reconnect with long-term goals. The question for Michigan is whether there's the collective commitment and sufficient resources to implement this approach at a broader statewide scale across both cities and rural areas. Others emphasize the root causes of the crisis, particularly the shortage of affordable housing. This vision includes tools like rent stabilization and large-scale investment in housing development. The goal: protect renters from sudden price surges and ensure more homes are available to meet real community needs. Still, this approach prompts important economic questions, including how to balance tenant protection with long-term housing growth. Many also argue that housing alone, while foundational, is not the whole solution. It's one piece of a bigger puzzle, one that includes economic opportunity, healthcare, and behavioral wellness support. In this view, stable housing must be paired with accessible services, job training, counseling, family support, and wellness care. Without these wraparound efforts, some worry that even well-intentioned programs may not offer lasting results. Across Michigan in 2025, a range of pilot projects are being explored. Some communities are investing in tiny home villages, offering individuals the privacy and dignity of a personal space, with access to supportive services nearby. Others are testing managed outdoor living areas, designed to offer safety, sanitation, and connection for those currently living unsheltered. These initiatives, while not without challenges, provide valuable insight into what may, or may not, scale effectively. But there is one looming concern: the expiration of temporary pandemic-era funding. This financial support helps sustain many local programs and services. As those dollars phase out, communities face difficult choices. How do we maintain progress while continuing to innovate? Ultimately, Michigan stands at a pivotal moment. The choices made today, about funding, collaboration, and compassion, will shape what housing security looks like tomorrow. And for the thousands of people across the state currently facing housing instability, those decisions couldn't be more important. Amid the challenging realities of homelessness across Michigan, a quieter story is unfolding. One that reflects resilience, generosity, and the power of everyday people to make a difference. These aren't sweeping policy reforms or high-profile campaigns. They're small, intentional acts of kindness that speak volumes about what community can truly mean. Take a small barbershop in Ypsilanti. Step inside and you'll witness more than haircuts. You'll see dignity being restored. The owner offers free services to anyone experiencing homelessness, knowing that a simple trim or shave can help someone feel human again. It's not part of a grant. It's just a person choosing to give, with respect and care. In Jackson, a local farmer quietly donates surplus produce to nearby shelters. His harvest becomes the base of warm, nourishing meals. Meals that not only feed, but remind people they are seen and valued. No headlines, no fanfare, just neighbors helping neighbors. Even the youngest voices are rising to meet the moment. In Petoskey, a group of kids ran a lemonade stand, raising $500 for a local food pantry. Their contribution may seem small, but it carries a powerful message. Compassion doesn't have an age limit. In Kalamazoo, organizations like Cardboard Profits, founded by someone who has experienced homelessness firsthand, go beyond charity. They offer services like clean laundry access, temporary shelter support, and perhaps most importantly, community. Through shared experience, they create trust, healing, and dignity. And in the snowy reaches of Marquette, when temperatures drop dangerously low, a local church opens its doors, offering warmth, safety, and a place to rest. It's not about polished infrastructure. It's about people stepping up when it matters most. These stories remind us that change doesn't only happen in city halls or capitol buildings. It also happens in barber chairs, behind lemonade stands, in church basements, and across kitchen tables. It's the small things, repeated with care, that can shift lives and strengthen communities. Michigan's homelessness crisis in 2025 is more than numbers. It's about people. Families, seniors, veterans, and young adults facing impossible choices in the absence of stable housing. We've seen the challenges: rising rent, economic hardship, and a shortage of affordable homes. But we've also seen hope in community efforts, local compassion, and programs that work when supported. The road ahead requires commitment from policymakers, communities, and each of us. Because housing isn't just shelter, it's stability, dignity, and opportunity. Thank you for joining us on this exploration. We hope this exploration has provided valuable insights into the challenges and complexities of homelessness in Michigan, drawing from multiple viewpoints to foster a more informed understanding. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel and stay updated with our latest videos. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Please note, the information in this video is compiled from reliable sources and public reports, aimed at analysis and providing a reference perspective. The video is not intended to incite panic, personal criticism, or provide financial or legal advice. Viewers should consider and verify additional information related to their personal circumstances before making any decisions.